I'm Stuart White, and here with Audio Punks. I was lucky enough to mix the Childish Gambino, Bando and the New World album.
I feel liberated, over-medicated. It was overrated. Tell what you want, I can tell by the look on your face. Let me out of here. I've been gone so long. Don't you know that this is the moment you're watching us throw it away?
The first song on the album was the first song that I mixed, Hearts Are Meant to Fly. They had put a lot of work into it, and it had a lot of vibe, a lot of effects, a lot of things happening in there, and I had to be very precious about maintaining the integrity while improving it. And I had never worked with them before. I met with them once and then only talked to them a couple of times, but I was new to their team, and so I was very careful to not stray too far from the vibe and feel of what they had, but increase headroom, increase width, and increase dynamics. I went through and printed a lot of their effects, and with all the vocals and all the stuff that was going on. And what I like to do is I'll take a lot of stuff, because everything's stereo nowadays, right? So you'll get sessions that have a whole bunch of vocals, whole bunch of synths, and they're all going to the same reverb or whatever, and everything's stereo, right? It's a stereo sound going to stereo reverb. And it clouds up the image in my mind. I want to be very careful and selective about what I make mono and what I make stereo. A technique and a tip that I used on that mix is I went through and I printed a lot of stems from their initial session with the effects, and then I would put the trim plugin on it, and I would mute one side. I'd pick one side of the sound, and I would pan that where I thought it needed to be with the effect printed on it. That's a huge tip, by the way, to clear up your image. I really exercise that technique a lot on that mix, just to get placement in all those interesting sounds that you hear in the mix.
Everybody hating wanna get like me. Everybody Satan.
So you hear the vocal in the background, it's Donald, and he's really in the distance, right? Well, that's an example where I printed the sound with their reverb on it, and then I muted one side of it because it's stereo, and then I just panned it, and I panned it like if this is left and this is right, I panned it right around in here somewhere. It's a mono sound that I just a little to the left or whatever, so it clears up the image, and it increases width. Thinking about it that way, like in doing those types of techniques, that's something that took me a long time to find on my own, But yeah, if you listen to that little spot.
I'm G.O.D. Ain't nobody living, got my P.O.V. Name another nigga who got shit on me. Shoot a motherfucker, I'm the new Spike Lee.
So as you go through this song, there's all kinds of little sounds that happen. So I'm strategically placing them in the image to where it doesn't affect other sounds. And that gives you clarity. How to make dry vocals interesting, I guess. Even if it is dry, compression can help. Tone harmonics, saturation, things like that. I'm not shy on softer, non-dynamic vocals. I'm a big fan of heavy compression. A lot of times like an 1176, or you could try that 610. Aggressive FET compression on a lot of vocals if it's really soft, if they did the performance fairly soft, or it's fairly talky and it's not like, someone, doing a soft bit and you get really loud or whatever. Like dynamics, I tend to do less compression and more levels, but with soft vocals, I'll do heavy, FET style compression a lot of times. That really helps to give you excitement and energy, because all the little nuances of the breaths and the mouth and the details just come to life in that world. So yeah, so don't be afraid to do heavy compression if you need to just sit something in a spot, and give it some vibe. It helps to create those contrasts that make something sound affected. Because if everything is affected, as Chad Blick would say, it's just your brain just tunes out, kind of. How do I keep the sibilance under control through heavy compression? Clip gain, is a big one. I'll apply a compression and get the vibe and the energy that I want. Again, I don't do this typically to loud dynamic vocals or vocals when people are singing really hard and pushing. In that case, I try to do less or no compression. But in the case of softer vocals or whatever, and they might bring up breaths and all that stuff, clip gain is your friend. Just clip gain it, pull down, highlight it, and pull it down. Maybe copy and paste different S's over top of bad ones. I might do that. A lot of times, if you want that heavy compression, you have to go in there and massage things later, and you can do it post compression or before. And sometimes I do a combination of both, and I'll combine that with de-essers. We were talking about this song that I mixed called We Are God. We were talking about the process of getting it to that end result. That's a case where the artist, wanted it to be trippy, but clarity, and have that right emotional impact and feel, and kind of gave me like emotional reference points to go off of rather than like specific technical notes. And I feel like when you work with artists, that happens a lot, where they'll give you more directions emotionally rather than from a technical place. And I love that. I really thrive in that environment when I get that freedom to be creative and use my technical skills to pull that emotion out of a record. As you listen to that part, he's doing a melody that's in the distance, really, really far away. And the tips that I gave before about compressing effects to give them clarity in the distance, that's a huge one. That's what I'm doing there. I'm making it more mono. I'm taking a mono sound, I'm panning it and placing it in the stereo image. So it sounds distant, it sounds far away. Because there's some cool stereo information with the other sounds in the vocals that are the drier vocals that are happening. And it gives it contrast, so your brain can hear them both, and your brain can understand them both without struggling to hear something, And something that I try really hard to do in the mixes that I do, especially since I get a lot of songs that have a lot of tracks and a lot of vocals, is being able to understand and have clarity in all the parts. Some of those effects came to me, and a lot of them I created in that section with instruction from the artist. I used the Bricasti on that. It's an outboard reverb. I mostly mix in the box, but sometimes the Bricasti is really good. And when you do like really lush, long reverbs, the Bricasti works really well for that. Tails off very smooth and silky. Whereas plugins tend to get grainy sometimes when they tail off. So I'll definitely pull that one out when I need something like that. And I think I also did a reverse of it too, where I recorded in and I did like a reverse reverb, like reversed it in so it kind of like goes in a little bit, but it's subtle. You get so used to the way the song sounds up until that point, and then it just opens up like the clouds parting or something like that. Because the song's called We Are God, and he's saying we are God. This is what I was trying to think about while I was creating that one. As I'm listening to that, he's kind of doing his vocal like a whisper. That's another case where I'm compressing that pretty hard because I want to get that clarity. I want to get him, like, if you put on headphones or even if you don't have headphones on, he's like right in your ear. He's whispering right into your ear, and it makes it intimate. Or like you're close to someone and you're this far away from them and you're talking softly and they can just like hear every nuance of what you're saying. That's the idea, because it makes it more intimate, and again, which adds to the emotion.
Nobody gives a fuck. I feel liberated, over medicated. It was overrated. Tell what you want, I can tell by the look on your face. Let me out of here. I've been gone so long.
was probably like the 4th or 5th song on the album that I mixed. I was kind of on a roll, and they were pretty happy with everything, and they were sending me more songs, and took a chance on that one. And I mixed it a bit different than, like the initial feel of what they had. He came by that in the studio, and we're working on some of the other songs. And we get to that one, he was like, I'm not really feeling the mix on that one. I kind of wish it felt a little bit more like the old demo. And I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. Is there anything from this one that might sound a little, that we might like? So I set it up to where we could like A, B. Him and Riley pointed out like, oh, maybe the toms there sound cool, or maybe that sounds cool, but the overall feel needs to go back to where it was. Like, cool. So what I did was I just remixed it on the spot. And the way I did that, pulled up my mix template, pulled all their tracks from the initial session back into the mix template, and then I imported in the sounds that we had liked from the first mix I had done. And then I just combined the two really quickly, like while he kind of sat and watched me did it. Pretty quickly, I recovered the mix, to a place where everybody was like, yeah, that's feeling good. That's something that I feel like maybe other mixers might struggle with. And also being in the box definitely helped that, just because, being able to comp different versions together is something that I've had to do a lot. I might mix a song for 5 or 6 hours, and I walk away and go have some food and come back and listen to it. I'm like, it's not it. And I go back and I just start it over, but I take the parts that I liked and I just start over real fast. Then I'll spend 2 more hours on it, and I'll get it to a place where I'm like, that's it. And then I'll send it out. And then a lot of times when I do that, I do check myself, and like, it's like I give myself the freedom to go down the rabbit hole, but then I know how to rein it back and get it, where it needs to go. And a lot of those mixes end up getting approved very quickly. Don't be afraid to do that. I think a lot of people think that you have to always commit and never look back and never change anything you do. And there's no rules. And, I'll do that. I'll edit things, in a way of like combine the things I liked from one with another and just see if that makes a better mix. And a lot of times it makes a better mix. So try it.